Like something else, Ricky, that we've talked about is hydration. You know, diet or nutrition as well as hydration, they go hand in hand essentially. We've touched on it briefly, but like in terms of hydration, how important is it to have that in your diet as well?
Vastly important, and hydration is such a huge factor in performance and health and feeling good. I always say to my clients, especially my female clients, you know, water is one of the best beauty products you can get. I was listening to Superman the other day. He was on an Instagram story and he was talking about he's doing his fasted cardio outside, beautiful day, walking around. Doing my fasted cardio today. But he says he had his branched-chain amino acids and his creatine first thing in the morning, so he was slightly misquoted there by saying it wasn't a fast, it was still micro-fasted. But on the point of nutrition, or sorry, the hydration, think about a sponge, you know, and if you're adding water to the sponge are going to soak, but you wring the sponge out, it doesn't really maintain a lot of the water. So when people start to add water in through the diet and you just start drinking more, what's the purpose of drinking the water? Is it to stay hydrated? Whereas if you have sodium levels in your body, if you're sodium depleted, you're basically not able to hold on to that water and you're just urinating out. Now you're still going to take a certain percentage of nutrients from the water, but if you're sodium deficient, you don't hold that water, you don't make use of that water as well. So there's a lot of things that I work with sports teams, and I one of MMA fighters and lots of athletes. And if you go to a hospital, you'll get a saline drip. Alright, if somebody's quite sick, where you have iodine, you have sodium and potassium. Sounds disgusting, but I add salt to my water. But generally speaking, that's a very healthy thing to do. I find that people just, again, it goes down to knowing what's happening on the inside of the body. Yeah. There's very few places we can actually find out how much water you have without actually getting a DEXA scan to actually take a measurement of your bone density, your muscle fiber, your organs, and then we can actually figure out how much water you have. And there's actually no scientific literature saying you have to have 1 pint per 1 kilogram of muscle size. It's very inaccurate because people sweat at different rates, people sleep at different rates as well, but hydration is vastly important. You know, and if you want to feel better, you know, a lot of people, like the brain cannot distinguish between hunger and thirst. As smart as the brain is, it just cannot tell the difference between both of them as well. So a lot of people want to eat. If you just take a glass of water 5-10 minutes before you think that you're hungry, just wait 5-10 minutes and then you'll probably feel okay. And that means that your chemical processes have realised, listen, I've took what I've needed.
Yeah.
Whereas if you haven't had a drink and you just go straight to the food, you've maybe overindulged in extra carbs, which your body doesn't actually need. It's maybe needing more water.
Yeah.
So it's a huge rule of thumb. I always say if you want to cut down on portion size as well, have a small glass of water before you eat a meal. You know, and that will actually cut down on the amount of food that you're taking. But like I say, you could. There was a story in Russia where somebody got thrown into isolation in the jail. They forgot about him for 40 days. Right, so you think, right, this person's going to die. He was still alive. And I'm not telling you what he was doing to stay alive, but he didn't have food, he didn't have water. He was basically just licking the walls for water. And, but again, you will die a lot quicker without water than you would with food. So vastly important.
We question there from Susie Crutch. Is tap water okay, or does it have to be bottled?
Good question, Susie. Thanks very much. It doesn't have to be tap or bottles. No, it depends on how seriously you're taking your hydration as well. Tap water. There's a lot of chemicals in tap water. Now, when I say this, I'm not meaning to scare anybody, but it's impossible from the water to come from the waterworks through the pipes into your tap, unless you have a reverse osmosis machine or something like that to take actual chemicals out of the water. Now the problem is with people thinking about, I'm going to take the chemicals out of the water and I'll get bottled water. Again, if you go to a shop and that bottle of water has been sitting in the sunlight, you're then taking in plastic. So there's no optimal way of taking it. I have a osmosis machine in the sink in the house, so all my water's filtrated. But I also go up to a natural spring and take water as well, because when it's running through the mountains, it's actually getting a lot of the dirt, a lot of the sodium, a lot of the salt from the mountains as well. So it's got a lot of good, and it's very little chemicals coming in as well. So
please tell me you boil it before, or do you just straight from the spring?
There's a tester you can do. I put a wee tester in to see if there's any kind of imbalances in it, and then I would drink it as well. So no worry, you have to test it first.
You know,
as well. But this is a natural spring. It's about 10 minutes outside Cookstown. There's a few natural springs in the country as well. I don't recommend that. Well, actually I do. I think it's a very good thing. But yeah, it depends on your goal really. Like tap water, I'd rather you drink tap water than not drink water. I'd rather you have water than a can of Coke. But it's like saying, what's the best type of protein? Like protein hierarchy, you definitely have quality of water, and the best quality of water, the cheapest water isn't normally the best. Now saying that, if you're going for bottled water, probably Evian water is the best. It's the purest form of water there is. But very good question.
It probably follows on slightly for what my actual next question was the best way to keep the body sort of hydrated. We've talked about numerous ways of making sure that you have containers with you, whether you're filling those up twice daily, whatever it happens to be. Like, what would your recommendation be of the best way to keep it? I know you have a couple of techniques with what you actually put in the water as well, like slightly maybe a bit of diluting or whatever it happens to be. Like, what would your recommendations be?
So basically, just know how much water you're supposed to take. So I don't want to set a general rule of thumb out there, but generally speaking, you would have about 1 litre to 25 kilograms of body weight. That's optimally what you're having. Now, if you're doing exercise, you should weigh yourself before and after exercise, and then look at how much weight you've lost. You have to then replace that. And then when you're exercising and you've lost that water, it's not just water you've lost sodium and electrolytes as well. So what I do is figure out how much water I need to take that day, and then I mark it down in jugs of water. I'll put it in my fridge as well, through the tap. I've been training twice a day. Like sometimes I do train twice a day. I find those days really, really hard. So I would make my own kind of energy drink. So I would put in sodium, salt, I put in potassium, I put in iodine. Iodine is one of the best things people don't take. It's people who have low thyroid production. Iodine is it's one of the best things for that. You'll get supplementation, get medication to improve that right before supplementation or nutrition before medication. Iodine is also anti-cancer. It's one of the best ingredients you can take for anti-cancer. So I have iodine drops, which I put in my water as well. It sounds like it's going to get really, different type of flavour. It still is water, but it's quite nice. On days that I'm training twice a day, like I say, I'm not somebody who drinks or eats perfect all the time. So if I'm training twice a day, I'll take a wee bit of Lucozade Sport or Powerade or something like that and mix that with my water, with the salt, with the iodine, with the potassium, and I'll drink that 3 litres throughout the day as well, and that really, really helps.
Yeah.
So and there's another test on the skin as well. If you roll up your sleeve, you can see if you're, like I'm very white there now at the minute. Put the fingerprint in, and then lean it back, and you can see the white, and it starts to fade kind of within the first few seconds. That's pretty good hydration levels, whereas if it starts to stay for longer than 3, 4, 5 seconds, you're a wee bit dehydrated.
Well, that would probably be me on a daily basis. Like as I say, I find it easier like with a slight bit of diluting or something, just to sort of add that bit of flavour, so that, because let's be honest, drinking water non-stop is quite difficult. Some people find it really easy. Some people find it rather difficult, so it's probably each to their own with their own methods. But